Welcome. I'm David Phillips, CEO of Estate Planning Specialist. We are here today with Rick Durfee and Todd Phillips to go over the Art of Legacy Planning, episode 5. This will be our 5th episode. And today we're going to focus on a couple of things. First of all, we're going to do a little update on the Build Back Better Act. It's going to be very short. We're going to talk about a couple of strategies that you can implement. There's a few changes that are going to be going on in reference to your retirement account. Todd's going to talk to you about a podcast that he just did. I'm going to reference you back to that podcast. Rick is going to talk today about, do I need a trust? Should I have a trust? And then I'm going to talk a little bit about a strategy, a concept that I think you're going to really find interesting. So let's get going. What's been going on with the Build Back Better Act, Rick?
Well, it's been suffering from the same trouble that a lot of political bills and action have recently. There's runaway inflation, there's a war in Ukraine, there's domestic tragedy of all sorts. So. And politicians are up for re-election, so a lot of things that would stir controversy have been stalled.
Yeah, I mean, we have our midterm in 5 months. That's kind of unbelievable, and nothing really, everything stalled out. The Build Back Better Act was passed in November in the House, and then stalled out in the Senate because of Sinema and Manchin. And it just hasn't gone anywhere since then. And we may see bits and pieces of some of the legislation that was in the Build Back Better Act kind of sneak through. But for what we know right now, we know that the estate exclusion is at $12,060,000 this year. It's going to sunset back in 2026 on January 1st of 2026, so we've got a couple of years left.
I candidly think it's safe till then, with midterms, and then in 2 years we're going to have the next presidential cycle. I don't see the political capital to make a change before that. Politicians, they're looking at the polls like everybody else, and they don't want to do anything that would...
Yeah, it's interesting, too, that right now at 12 million, it impacts about 1,500 estates annually in the U.S. At 7 million, it'll impact maybe 2,000. So not many more. It's not really going to hit most of us and most Americans. And so it's just kind of it's fuel for fodder, and a discussion, but it really is kind of a moot point, I think.
Kind of an irony is, though, inflation can push people into that estate tax category that might not otherwise be there.
However, the market
can take it away.
What's going on with the market, Todd? What are we seeing?
I mean, as of today, it's down 20% from where it was in January 1st.
Yeah, and your last presentation that you gave here at the podcast, it was down 10.
Right. Yeah, I can't keep up. By the time the next one, hopefully.
So everybody who said either go to cash or have an indexed product were really brilliant. 5 months ago.
If you could have had a crystal ball in November, I wish I would have shouted from the rooftops a little more.
Well, one of our favorite, our favorite forecasters, one of our favorite. We have several favorite, but one of our favorites, Mark Skousen. And what did he say?
I mean, we did a video podcast in November to try to tell people, and didn't get a lot of views from it. I don't know what the message. The market was doing too good, too well, and that message of getting into safety, November, which wasn't resonating. Now, of course, it is, and it's just kind of how it works. We don't have a crystal ball. It's hard to see until it's already happening. Looking 2020 hindsight.
Well, anyway, the bottom line is that the Build Back Better Act is pretty well buried. Yeah, I think it's over, and so we can rest assured. Rest easy, anyway, easier. I still remember you and I in November on how when the House Ways and Means Committee came out with their version of it, you and I about had a hernia. I mean, and my phones were ringing, and I was all of the guys that are involved in estate planning throughout the country were calling and saying, this is going to happen. We're in big trouble. And
yeah, well, an irony of that is bad policy, which I vigorously oppose, is good for my business.
Yes.
Same here. But please, politicians, don't do that. But if you're dumb enough to do it, people are going to need help, and we're going to dodge and weave and do everything the law permits to minimize the impact.
Yeah, and that kind of comes back to one little area that I think we need to emphasize to our listeners. And that is the fact that your IRA, your 401k, your what we call qualified money, and annuities that have gain, when those assets pass to our kids, they're going to be subject to income taxes. And we have the Secure Act that passed in 2021, and it's ugly. It's a 10-year rule. So the kids have to take the money within 10 years. Frankly, most of them will take it before then.
They will.
But they have 10 years, and all the money has to be taken out, and all the taxes have to be paid in 10 years.
And let me just observe with annuities, even though sometimes under the contract they could stretch it out, often they don't know that, and they just take the money, not realizing that it's going to all be taxable at that event. So
it's a big thing, and it's something that you need to plan for. If you're a state, if you have a moderately large IRA, there's better ways to plan for it. And Todd, you have a retirement analysis that you help people prepare, show them how the Roth conversion, what the power of a Roth conversion would do, and we also have some alternative suggestions and ideas to a Roth. In this report, the Bombshell Battle Plan, and some good suggestions and ideas on what to do with your money. Another little twist that happened on January that we really haven't talked much about in our podcast is that the required minimum distribution still is at 72. Now there was some talk to increase it to 75. There's even been some bantering around to eliminate the required distribution, which I think would be a hoorah. I think that would be a good thing.
It's a tax gotcha.
Well, it's still going to be a tax gotcha to the kids.
Yeah.
And anytime you touch
Daddy
it,
and Mommy don't pay the tax, but the tax is going to be paid.
But, for me, I kind of like the idea of not having to do RMDs, but right now I do, and dadgummit, I have to. But anyway, at age 72, which is the first year of an RMD now, the factor has gone up or gone down. So $1 million IRA last year, the required distribution for a 72-year-old was $39,000, and this year it's $36,000. So about a $2,500 drop that you don't have to take, and so that's just something people need to know, plan for. Your accountants they all have the tables, and it's all automatic, so you really don't have to do much. But or your
custodians.
Your what?
Custodians.
Custodian. Thank you. Yeah, your custodians. They'll know what to do. So.
The RMD gets a bad rap, but I keep beating this drum. The most tax efficient use of an IRA, of a traditional retirement account, is to use the money during the retirement of an individual. That's individual retirement account. That's what it's for. That's its tax purpose, and that's its most efficient use. The idea that we can leave that to our kids is naive. That's almost magical thinking. It's just not going to happen. The politicians are going to take a big chunk of that, which is why some of these ideas that you've got in your Bombshell Battle Plan and other things are really good, and why people should look at, well, what's going to happen with this IRA really? Do I need it? Or is it going to be used for some other purpose? If you're thinking in the back of your mind, I don't need this money, ultimately it's going to go to my kids, then people owe it to themselves and their children to look at what's the most tax efficient way to get the money from where it is to where we ultimately want it to be. And leaving it in the IRA is not the way.
And I've said probably 1,000 times, maybe 2,000 times, an IRA is simply an IOU to the IRS. And so especially if we end up leaving it to our kids with the Secure Act. And there's on our website there is a video presentation that I did right after the Secure Act passed. And if you have an issue with your IRA, if you have a large IRA, go watch that. The law still applies. And anyway, so Todd, let's talk about your podcast. You just did a podcast. It's out on the website right now. And why did you do what motivated you? And tell me what can you, in a few minutes, just tell us, summarize.
Sure. So I've been monitoring and analyzing the annuity market since 1995 is when I really started. Got super into it by 98 and then just been monitoring ever since. And rates, because the 10-year treasury is up, are now the highest I've seen in more than a decade. So we are seeing participation rates in the index growth and the upside go from 60% to 145%. Same contract. So that's significant. You were making 6% if it was up 10, now you're making 14.5 on the same contract. A lot of upside. And some of these, you're able to lock in the rates for the entire duration of the annuity, which we couldn't do before. They could change it every year. Some of them now are contractually going to keep that same rate.
Usually shorter
annuities. The shorter ones. And that's the other thing is the short terms are looking really good. You used to have to go for 10, 15 years to get good yield or good upside. Now you can get really good and fantastic rates. And that's because the short-term bond market's so high. So the insurance companies are getting great yield on the bonds that they're able to buy with your investment. And then they have call options to hedge the upside. So it's just a really good environment right now, much better than it was that I've seen in the last 10 years. So it's a really excellent time. If you're ever looking at locking in or protecting some of your assets, now's the time to look at it. And it's incredible how much they've gone up. And that's because, look, the 10-year treasury was at 50 basis points a year ago, and now it just barely went over 3. Now it's coming back down a little bit, but rates have changed significantly. So
one thing, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later, one of my strategies that's up is income annuities or immediate annuities. They're up. They were kind of in the doldrums there for a while, and now they're actually decent.
Right.
Way more than a CD.
We are starting to see something across the board. They're all looking much better than they were. And the carriers are probably a couple months behind the adjustment. Mm-hmm. So they're actually, I think, pricing to when it was going to be over 3. I think maybe if it keeps going down, now it was 2.7 today, the 10-year treasury. If it keeps going down, we might see them pull back a little bit. There was this little arms race where everyone just kept trying to get the top position, and maybe they overshot the mark. So some of these rates are just absurd right now. They're really good. But I think they're going to start maybe trickling down a little bit. I don't know what overall rates are going to do going forward, but like I say, they lag probably 2 to 6 months from where the rates are based on the 10-year treasury.
So how much do these rates track the Fed's action? Fed raises its rate.
Yeah, it's primarily the 10-year treasury that they track. This is the bond rate, but the short-term Fed funds rate, that affects the 10-year treasury. So yeah, that's the first mover. And then if rates rise, you will likely see the long-term rates rise too.
That's one of the very few tools that the Fed has to combat inflation is raise the rates, check the rates.
Right.
So our viewers today in this podcast, then what we're going to encourage them to do is go back and watch episode 4 and check out your presentation you gave on this annuity phenomenon that's going on right now.
So you can go to our website and just epmeasy.com, and we have a portal now that they can actually get real-time quotes for annuities on their own. You can just go to our site, epmeasy.com.
Yeah, but we want them to call you.
Ultimately, call me. I'll save you a lot of time because there's thousands of contracts that you can see, and you're just going to go crazy. But I can help you find which ones. That's what I do all the time.
Well, I know you've been really busy. So
yeah, that's been great.
Yeah, that's been good. Well, that's good. And okay, let's kind of switch gears now. Thanks, Todd, on that. Rick, last a couple weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, you and I, Kristen, Janelle, your wife, and Kristen, one of our staff, were at the Money Show in Vegas. Kind of an interesting. It's
interesting to see that show.
Yeah. Well, the COVID wasn't good, for it, and I think they're still trying to figure out the model that they want, but there's still a lot of interest, and they have a lot of followers, and while I was there at the show, and it's kind of almost every day, but I don't know why it was at that particular show, I had at least 15 people come up to me and ask me, because I was at our booth. You and I had a booth together.
Right.
And while you were there visiting with someone else, or you were gone or whatever, I had people ask me, well, do I need a trust? And I hear that, Todd, I know you do as well. You hear it, do I need a trust? And that's question number one. And then question number two is invariably, do I need a dynasty trust? What's the difference between a revocable living trust and a dynasty trust?
So, your two questions. Part of the reason why that confusion in the marketplace happens is because people conceptually think that the trust is somehow linked to estate taxes. Oh, the estate tax exclusion is really high, it's $12 million, and even if it comes down to $6 million, that's not me, so I don't need a trust. But the reality is a trust, particularly the revocable living trust, its initial and primary function is to avoid probate. And so I should also add that there's a dozen ways or more to avoid probate, and a trust is one of them, and it can be the best one, particularly if there's any kind of complexity or a lot of properties. But here's the issue with the traditional, typical revocable living trust and then a dynasty revocable trust. Most revocable trusts focus on that event at death, probate, which is a form of litigation to determine who's supposed to get your stuff. And people will think, well, if I have a will, I don't have probate. Well, no, your will is not valid, it's not effective until a judge says so. And to get a judge to say so, you got to go to court, which means probate. So the living trust avoids that because your assets, instead of needing a judge to ratify what's going to happen, are subject to a trust. The trust is a contract. You're able to spell out under the terms of that contract what you want to have happen, and your family's able to administer that privately and quickly and inexpensively. So the distinction between that and the dynasty trust is, well, then what? Okay, we avoided probate. Mm-hmm. Then what? The fact is, a trust can do many, many other things. It can eliminate conflict and litigation within a family. And families, by the way, don't recover from litigation. When family members sue each other, it's nasty. And the number of families that sue each other over mommy and daddy dying is about the same percentage as the number of mommies and daddies that get divorced. It's a pretty high percentage. And there are law firms that their entire business model is based upon we want those conflicts.
So the family unity is destroyed.
The family
what we're trying to create is done.
Yeah. So mommy doesn't talk to her brother. It hasn't for the last 25 years because there was some disagreement over how they divided up grandma and grandpa's money. So it can avoid litigation. It can also protect the assets for generation 2, 3, and 4, and 5, and on and on and on. A lot of people think, I have a trust, my assets are protected. Well, no. Not for a revocable trust. For a revocable trust to protect your assets, Todd, you got to die, and most people don't want to do that. That's a move to protect your assets that is preferable to avoid. So, but when you do die, and now your assets are going to be inherited by your children, if the assets are in the trust, they can be protected from the creditors and liabilities and nasty life situations that occur in the lives of your children. So divorces, bankruptcies, business failures, car accidents, medical issues, substance abuse issues, all those things and others that we haven't even thought of yet that can happen in generation 2 and 3. The trust can protect that. So here's kind of my metaphor for that. If you have $100,000 in the bank and you're going to the movies, how much money do you withdraw at the ATM machine to go to the movies? Well, hopefully only enough to buy your tickets and some popcorn and maybe go out for ice cream afterwards. You don't take out $100,000 and put it in baggies and load a duffel bag and carry the duffel bag with you to the movies, because bad stuff can happen. You could leave it in the theater. Somebody could hit you over the head and take it from you. You could impulse buy. Oh yeah, I want that. Oh, I have cash. Let's do it. So you leave the money in the bank and you only take out what you need. Well, the trust can function in the same way. You know, you have this brilliant family bank strategy, and I know you're going to talk about that more, which is a really cool financial tool. That combined with the trust as a family bank, where the money is the family's money, it's available to use and help and take care of the family, but it's wrapped up in this trust so that the bad guys can't take it. And I want to add, this is something I've been thinking a lot about because I've been watching this. There are families that generations ago started with a little tiny bit of money, and over several generations have taken that little tiny bit of money and turned it into a lot of money. And more important than what they've done with the money, those families have turned out generation after generation of highly productive, powerful, and effective individuals, people that make great neighbors, the kind of people we hope our children marry. And they've done some things different than what most people do. And one of the things they've done differently is they don't just divide up their money and distribute it to the children when they die.
Based on ages.
And that age-based mandatory distribution, which we see in trusts all the time. Oh, give the kids some money. They might blow it when they're young, so give them some when they have a birthday, and wait 5 years, another birthday, give them some more. That just doesn't work. That flat has never worked. We have hundreds of years of experience to know that's a bad idea, and yet lawyers still do it all the time. Why? Because they haven't come up with anything better. Well, there are better options.
Well, but there's another thing you said. I remember at the booth, you were talking, frankly, it creates litigation when the money is wasted and blown or whatever, and that's what lawyers
do, but also I have been to events.
And I'm not negative on lawyers.
You're neither am I. I am a lawyer, so. but I have been involved with. Well, I network with a lot of people. I've sat in meetings where people tell me our business model is based upon finding second or third or fourth generation money where the family members are incompetent and naive, and it's their money when we start, but by the time we're done, it's our money. Now, I'm kind of overstating it. It's a little over the top and a little oversimplified, but that's essentially what their business model is. So we can stop that. We can stop the money from doing bad things, and everybody knows this wisdom, this saying, is present in virtually every culture. I've had so many people tell me, "Oh, my family's from fill in the blank country or culture," and they'll say, "We have this saying that wealth lasts 3 generations. From grandma and grandpa make it, the children spend it, the grandchildren blow it, and then it's gone." And frankly, there are studies that pretty much back that up. We can interrupt that cycle. We can disrupt it. We can protect the wealth from the people, and we can protect the people from the wealth, so that both of them do better. The wealth grows more, and the people are more productive and effective and self-reliant. So that's what a dynasty trust is all about.
And the language of your trust would be different than from a basic revocable trust.
Yeah, and I'll confess one of the downsides is if you're thinking about, this trust is not going to last for 27 years until somebody passes away and then we're throwing it away and starting with a new one. This trust is going to last for 100 years or 500 years or 1,000 years. We pack it full of stuff that we might need. You often refer to the Egyptians had it right, they were wrong. You can't take it with you, and they load up their tombs with all the things that people might need in the afterlife. Well, if your trust is going to last a long time, we want to be prepared for all the things that might happen that we haven't thought about yet. And so we build in a mechanism to resolve conflict. We build in a mechanism to deal What if family members are not competent? What if they're special needs? We build in tools to deal with what if the family moves? They're not in the same place. Another thing I see that I really find to be a marker of poor thinking on the part of the lawyer is trusts that are tied to a particular place. Oh, mommy and daddy live in this place today, so the trust is dependent upon often. The statutes will say, oh, yeah, instead of me putting an extra 6 pages in the trust, which would make my trust big, long, and awkward, I'm just going to have one line that says, yeah, do what it says in the statute over there in that state. And several problems I have with that, one, not the least of which is now the politicians have the ability to amend your trust when you don't. Mm-hmm. They can change the rules whether you like it or not. But the second thing is now we're dependent upon that. I recently, for a very substantial individual, reviewed a trust that was formed in one state, and it said you can move the trust to another state. So good move. But it said to do so, you have to refer to the laws in the statute of the first state, and forever thereafter, it's the statutes of the first state that govern when and how and under what conditions you can move. That's, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good metaphor for that. That's like having your car on a chain. You can go anywhere you want as long as you don't run out of chain. I think it's just silly. So there's a lot of things a trust can do beyond avoiding probate.
Cool. Well, so, listen, yeah, I know that you have, and you can go on all day on this because this is your soapbox, but you have 2 reports that I know that we've handed out at the Money Show.
Correct.
You have them on your website. And the website's on we can see it on our screen here today. So you can go to that website. But
why all trusts are not created equal kind of goes down through some of the mechanics of what distinguishes one kind of trust from another. There's another one, just do I need a trust? And not everybody needs one, in fairness.
And that's not really an article. That's a
worksheet. It's a worksheet. A test. Yeah. You answer a bunch of yes and no questions, and the more yeses, the more you need it.
But you told me today some really good news, and I'm gonna tell our listeners today about the good news, okay? But by telling, this is committing you to do this.
Uh-oh.
Yes. You said you're finishing up a book.
I am.
And this is exciting. I mean,
it's been a long time.
You told me you're going to do this.
I told you 10 years I was going to do it. I finally, and it's been something I've been nibbling at a little bit over time. Yeah, it's called Trust Issues: Why Conventional Estate Planning is Not Working and What to Do About it. And cool. I bring in a lot of examples, tell a lot of stories of things that people did wrong that exploded and
so what, do we have a possible publishing date?
Mid-July is when.
Oh, wow.
We're going to have it.
Well, we'll have to have a podcast again
we'll have a podcast.
To be our coming out party. So.
Yeah. That's, I think, when it's going to go to the printer. It may take a little time after that to get it in people's hands, but it's coming.
Great. Well, good. Well, that's exciting. And you'll have a lot of this stuff in there, and that's great. Okay, well, I wanted to kind of come back to Todd's deal on the annuity and introduce a concept. A friend of ours, a co-worker of ours, he's our underwriter and sometimes our product designer, Ron Blauvelt, came up with this idea that I wanted to share, and I think I give him credit for it. That's not my idea. But he said that now that immediate annuities, or what we call I call them income annuities, so the industry calls it immediate annuities, the rates are up. He came up with this idea that we've called the guaranteed inheritance and income strategy. So in essence, I'm going to paraphrase and then you can add a few things to it, Todd. Let's just say we have a gentleman, female, that has a $500,000 in an after-tax account. And they have other money as well, and other money is in the market, and it's all going everywhere. It's in crypto, it's here and there, but they have this $500,000 that they want to earmark for this idea, okay? And so they take this and they take it out of risk, and they then give it to a carrier to create income. and they set up what's called a life-only income annuity. And that $500,000 for a 65-year-old would produce about $3,000 a month for the rest of their life, no matter how long they live. That's about right? Don't you think that was the right figure? And then from there, they take a third of that, or $900 of that, and back up, and they have kids. And one of their goals is they want to leave this $500,000 to their kids, but they also want income. So what we do is we take that $500,000 income annuity, $3,000 a month, take $900 of that and secure, and up front, you do this first, by the way. The first step is to do what I'm telling you to do right now, is you qualify for a wealth creation life insurance policy for $500,000. And the beneficiaries are the kids. When you pass away, whenever that is, your kids get the $500,000 totally income tax free. If it's set up correctly, estate tax free. Okay, and the remaining $2,100 is income for him for the rest of his life. In 20 years, he gets all of his $500 back in income, and his kids get, and he passes away, let's say he's 65, passes away at 85, $1 million total payout. $500,000 to the kids, $500,000 to him for the rest of his life. The interesting thing is, if you extrapolate that concept out over time, it's about a 5% return guaranteed.
Right.
Just on the death benefit.
Well, if you take the yield from the excess for the SPIA, right, the 2,100, and then you also factor that you're getting the $500,000, your family's getting the $500,000 death benefit. It doesn't really. It was interesting when we ran the numbers. A 65-year-old buying it, a 75-year-old, 80-year-old, it still ended up being a 5% return.
No matter the age.
It's pretty much, yeah. Wow. It was, close, give or take. It's just how the numbers worked.
Interesting.
What I like about it, it's very simple. It's a very, very simple concept. Just take 500, put it, 500 that you're not, that you're going to create. I want some additional income. So now you're getting the income, plus you're guaranteeing the inheritance to the kids. And so, and the income goes out for as long as you live. So you could live past 85, you could live 90, 95, it still income comes out and it's guaranteed. And there's no risk at all. And this is everything that I just described to you is 100% locked in and guaranteed.
So I want to comment about this from the lawyer's chair.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen high interest rate periods come and go. And a couple of things, they don't last.
Right.
They last for a time and then they go away. And when you started telling the story, I have a client, and I'm a lawyer. I don't sell annuities. You can't buy one from me. I don't make a penny if you buy one or don't buy one. But I have a client who, it was late 80s, maybe early 90s. He was in his 50s. He bought one of these income annuities, or the single premium immediate annuity, though it had a really high payout. And then we had decades of low interest rates. And this guy was killing it. He would brag to his friends, my annuity's paying, and he would tell them the percentage rate of the payout. And all that time, for all those decades, he was killing on that money. And I don't know what his rate of return is. I haven't done the math, but I know that he more than got his money back. And he's now in his late 80s. And it's been a good deal. So if you're going to buy an annuity, if you're thinking about it, during a high interest market is the time.
This wasn't really available last year. Because the rates just weren't
high. This concept,
right?
Yeah.
We weren't getting enough yield.
It takes a high interest market.
We need a decent, and the other thing is, the reason why it's 5%, a little bit higher than other things, because there's that health arbitrage. Right. Because you're qualifying, if this is only really for healthy people, it's not going to work if you're not getting a great rate on the life insurance. You have to be healthy, because there's no underwriting for the annuity, right? So they're just lumping everyone's risk into the same boat. Whereas if you're a super low risk insurance, you can get the life insurance, a super preferred, really good risk class. You're able to take that health arbitrage, and that's why you're getting that higher.
So to our viewers, if that's a concept that has any kind of interest let's give us a call, talk to Todd, because Todd understands the idea, the concept, myself, or we can put you up with Ron and have him explain it and run some examples for you and show you. We have access to all of the income annuities that are out there, so we know which one's going to give you your largest payout. And so, but I think before you do that, before you put money into an income annuity to do this, get qualified for the insurance first, and get that, and get it done, and get it, and then switch it out, because the income annuity you can turn that.
The other idea, just kind of enhance that concept, was to throw in long-term care with the life insurance. So we had about a 5% yield without the long-term care. If you have long-term care, it's going to be about a 4.8% yield. It takes a little bit of a.
So
shaves the yield, but she gets a long-term care.
So how does a long-term care? You just explain. I know, but for our listeners, how does a long-term care?
So these guys are buying taking the money, buying the life insurance for $500,000.
Adding a rider.
Add a long-term care rider built into the policy. It's usually, you can get 2 to 4% of the life insurance per month for your long-term care. So let's just say you did 2%, which is pretty common for $500,000. That's $10,000 a month that they're just getting cash from their policy. If they need long-term care, they can use that. A lot better way than just getting traditional long-term care. Plus, you've got the cash value if you need it from the life insurance too.
Yeah, and the 2% is extracted from the death benefit. So it's the source of the long-term care payout is the life insurance. So let's say they trigger it by not being able to do 2 of the 6 activities of daily living, or they're cognitively impaired, they trigger it. And it's an indemnity payout. Most of them are indemnity payouts, which means no receipts are required. So they just get the 2%.
They get the benefit.
They get the money,
yeah.
And they decide they want to use it to have the kids come over and play bingo with them. They, or fly the kids in to visit with them, or whatever. They can do whatever they want with the money. But let's just say they did it for 10 months, and at the 500,000, the 2%, which is 10,000, so 10 months would be 100,000. That's subtracted out of the 500, so the family receives the balance of 400. You took the 100 for your own care. You became the beneficiary of your own life insurance policy.
I would say probably cool. one little caution is, because we have clients of all the way up to age 100. The long-term care is probably not going to work past 80. You're pushing it. Even 75 and up is kind of pushing it. We can do it, but it starts to not become as viable.
So sooner is better than later.
Sooner, yeah.
Well, then, and our example was
55-year-old, 60-year-old. That looks really good.
Great. Okay. Well, we've kind of run the gambit here today that we wanted to talk about. We had our little agenda, and I think we've covered everything that we wanted to, with one exception. I need to kind of make an announcement. I have been asked by clients and by colleagues to do a little update to the Family Bank Strategy, the book, the Family Bank Strategy. And when I wrote the Family Bank Strategy book itself, it was kind of out of desperation, because the story of permanent insurance, using permanent insurance as a investment tool, was not being told correctly.
Right.
It was there was a lot of garbage going on out there, and it was bothering me to no end, and I just couldn't let it go. I couldn't let it go, but I wanted to tell the story correctly, and so that was my motivation for writing the Family Bank Strategy book. Subsequent to that, there's been some changes, some new ideas, new strategies, new things that have come into play. And so I am doing a special report, kind of like an addendum to the Family Bank, called the Family Bank Strategy Revisited, okay, a special report. And this will be out mid-June. So I'll be out before your book.
Yeah,
okay?
I'm not surprised.
But mine's only a special.
Well, you're faster and better than me anyway.
But mine's a special report too. So, but that will be available, and we will send out an announcement to all of our viewers and clients that that'll be ready and out. And so look for that. And we will make it available online, probably for a very low introductory fee, $10 or something like that. Something to kind of get people to in the hands of everyone.
Can't even buy a hamburger for $10 anymore. That's not a bad deal.
No. Well, you can't at In-N-Out Burgers. But then you have to eat their buns. So, okay. Anyway, listen, it's been great to talk with you guys today, and great to be here and be a part of our the Art of Legacy Planning podcast. We will look forward to our next one. If something shakes down in Congress, we will be here. Go back and visit Todd's episode, the 4th episode, and let's get your book done, and I'll get my report done, and we'll all be good.
Good deal.
Thank you for being here, visiting today with us, and viewing this, and have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.